Welcome to the Mind and Body Matters podcast, a holistic approach to mental, emotional, and physical wellness so you can stress less to gain more peace, passion, and joy in your life. I'm your host, Jackie Thomas, coaching and consulting, and today I have here with me my lovely friend, Dr. JoNeil Conley,
Mm.
with her coaching business, Rejoy Your Life Coaching. So tell us a little bit about yourself there, Dr. JoNeil.
Well, thank you for having me, Jackie. It's been a pleasure working and growing with you over these last few years. I'm a registered nurse by occupation, but that was just a tiny little piece of who I am. I believe I've been nursing and coaching my entire life, whether it was formalized or not formalized. And always wanted to grow up, get married, have babies, bake cookies, and live happily ever after. And that just didn't quite seem to work out for me. And
Mhm.
I had bumps along the road, and I had a really difficult marriage, and I had breast cancer. My now ex-husband came home from prison in November, and I got breast cancer in January. And just a whole, and here's the deal. I need to preface this. That's life.
Mhm.
None of us is spared. None of us is spared of the life things that happen. And I think why I say rejoy your life is that many of us think, oh, I'm never going to be happy again. I'm never going to be joyful again. Look at this. Look at this crap that's dumped on me. And we wallow in that, and we turn that inward, and we can't find, we can't find anything to be happy about. And I do make a distinction between happiness and joy,
Mhm.
because happiness is, can I fit into my summer blue jeans coming up? That's happiness. That's external. Joy is, can I see a life purpose? Can I see a reason? Can I see how things that are happening to me impact those I love, those around me, the world at large? And so finding that ability, again, I lost both of my parents within 13 months of one another. And my, I tell the story, my divorce was final at 9 in the morning, and my mother's funeral was at 3 o'clock the same day. So I've had some stuff. I've had things happen. Um, but in my nursing career, what came up for me, and what I studied in my academic career, was bullying, and bullying in the nursing profession, which then transcends out to a lot of other areas. And people go, nurses bullying one another. How can that be? They're the maidens of mercy, and they do all these wonderful, nice things. And Jackie, as a nurse, this is, I'm singing to the choir here. But I think what happens too is that there's a thing called a bullying act,
Mhm.
and then what happens inside of us when that happens. And that bullying act can be somebody saying something, pulling in front of you on the highway, all kinds of things. But what happens, it touches that I'm not enough button inside of us, and we all have it. We can't get to any length of time where you haven't had somebody scar or hurt. And our job, as coaches and as human beings, is to get up and know that we have those I'm not enough buttons, or I'm hurt buttons, or any of those things, and recognize that between stimulus and response, there's a pause.
Mhm.
And being in that pause, and that's where I think you find the joy, is in the pause, where you go, okay, I'm going to swear, shit's happening, shit's blah, 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 and we just go off. And so I have, again, struggled with my weight, struggled with body image, all that. I grew up in the diet culture. Let me just tell you, I was 8 years old, got taken to the diet doctor. That's a whole nother podcast. But
Mhm.
what it does is it identifies that even loving, kind, wonderful parents, which I had, wanted the best for me. And in the best world, you don't have a chubby little kid. You got to do something about that. But
Mhm.
what nobody thought about was, how was that hurting my 8-year-old psyche, when all of a sudden I wasn't good enough and food got taken away from me. And I'm saying this as examples of that, rejoying your life, that stuff's going to happen. We have
Mhm.
to own it. Now, there are stupid stuff that I've done. Sometimes we always think it's always somebody else doing it. Raise your hand if you've ever done anything or said anything stupid. Yes, that was hurtful and you didn't mean to. it just, it just came out of your mouth. And then you went, oh dear Lord, why did I say that? And so the charge to all of us living on this planet with others. Now, I
Mhm.
always say life would be really easy if other people were involved. Just,
Maybe
but
not,
they,
maybe not so much.
it's like,
We need each other. It
that's
is
right.
definitely difficult for sure. Relationships are a challenge, right? I completely resonate and
Yeah.
can connect with everything that you are saying here.
Yeah.
But yeah, relationships are hard, and sometimes we do feel like, oh man, I wish I was just the only person on this planet. I wish I lived alone because life would be so
Oh,
much easier. But would it really?
yeah. Well, I think we learned our lesson during COVID,
Mhm.
where we were in this little pod with this very few people, and sometimes we didn't really like them very few people, and we realized that, although you and I are having this interchange, electronically, hugs and love and other people have become, and I say that with tongue in cheek, that life would be so easier because it'd be really boring and lonely, and I get tired of myself sometimes. But I think learning what it means to live in relationship with our mind, our body, our spirit, with one another is a life journey. And it's not a flip the switch kind of a thing. I think you and I would both agree that events happen at certain stages, and it just brings this whole rush of things that it's like, damn it, I thought I'd fixed all that. And so I think the challenge, and Jackie, as we've talked a lot about things in both of our lives, is that putting it into, it's not all or nothing. It's not black or white. It's not stop or go. It's a continuum.
Mhm.
And that continuum can dip and move and change, and that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And
Mhm.
so if somebody comes into your life, ask yourself, what's the reason? Is it there to help? There's also people that come into our lives to act like sandpaper
Mhm.
and and rub off our rough edges. So having that conversation with ourselves, being in communion with ourselves, being in communion with our guides and our spirits and our all of those, our subconscious, all of those things help us make it through the day.
Mhm. Yes, and what resonated with me, you were saying, we're going through all of these things. I was thinking we get to have both and. It's not
Mhm.
either or. It's I can feel this way
Yeah.
and feel that way at
Yeah.
the same time. Like it's not an either or situation.
Yeah.
And nurses are people too. So like you were saying, we get triggered and we get triggered by our patients sometimes. And we have to take that responsibility ourselves to recognize that trigger, or if there's more triggers, sometimes there are.
Yeah.
It relates back to the potentially I'm not good enough, or I can't, or whatever limiting belief is running under the surface there, right? And like JoNeil had said, it's about what our parents, they installed those programs or thinking patterns of thinking into us when we were children. But it's not just our parents who played a part or had a role in
Mhm.
the conditioning and the way of thinking. And it's our teachers, it's our religion, it's our culture, it's the environment in which we grew up. And some of us did have loving parents and doted on us, and we can still be receiving a perception of
Yep.
not good enough because the well-being, or not well-being, but the well-meaning of the parents' intention can still create some harm because of the child's
Oh,
perception.
yes.
And not everybody gets to have those loving, kind parents
Yeah.
who are passing that down. For many of us, there's generational trauma,
Yep.
and I personally have experienced that myself and have had to manage and learn to manage the layers of that.
Mhm.
and to no longer identify with my childhood trauma as who I am, because I am so much more than that. And that goes for everybody out there. You are not your trauma. You are not the behavior that you're exhibiting, because
Mhm.
that is just, the behavior is the outcome of what's going on inside.
Yep.
So I just wanted to add that because I thought that was really incredible. Like, it's both and,
Yes.
it's
Well
not,
said.
it's never either or.
Hmm. For sure. For sure. And I think there's different phases of our lives too. I consider myself a crone. I've gotten to that stage here where I can, as I've said to you before, my runway ahead is a lot shorter than the runway behind. And
Mhm,
so every era or every time frame, when you're a young mom, you're in a certain phase. When you're an employer, when you're newly married, when you're a all of those time frames, and hopefully we learn something along the way. We learn some, but very rarely do we ask ourselves, I wonder what I was supposed to learn from that. And that
mhm,
was that was my mother's. And I said that to a colleague just the other day who had gone through an interview process and didn't get the job he wanted. And I said, "Well, what did you learn from that experience?" Because it's easy to wallow. It's easy to go, "Well, I gave it," and run into that. Well, when you say, maybe I wasn't the best fit. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe there was something that I had said that triggered them about that. So I think that process of introspection,
mhm,
albeit can boggle you down, and a lot of people are introspective when they journal. They write things in their journal and then it pops out at them. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if anybody remembers those magic eye things where you would stare at it and eventually some picture would come forward. And I think, it's hard for me to find that, to quiet my mind enough to do that, but it
mhm.
is so important to do. So important to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was thinking of two things. Brene Brown, who said, expressed in one of her books or TED Talks, I'm not sure which. I love Brene Brown and her work. But she's like, when our mother wanted us to be learning something, she would give us a book.
Oh,
And it made
yeah.
me laugh. My parents didn't do that. My parents struggled for most
Mm,
of their lives, and so it's challenging there. But I had to do that myself, and I had the desire to improve and increase my knowledge. And so I did learn through coaching to
yeah.
ask myself.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I entered into the coaching world
Mhm.
where I had even contemplated or thought, what does this have to do with me?
Yeah.
And perhaps
Well,
me not getting that thing, whatever it is, because there's something better coming
mhm,
along. This isn't meant for me. So,
mhm.
you know, like you said, we could wallow, and I think a lot of us get stuck there. I know I've been stuck
Yep.
there, and oh,
Mhm.
poor me, and I'm sad and angry, and it's okay to have those feelings. Please avoid thinking I'm telling you to not have your feelings. Feel
Oh,
your feelings, and
yeah.
then ask yourself, what does this have to do with me?
Uh-huh.
And, maybe that's not meant for me. Maybe
Mhm.
there's something bigger and better coming along.
And what you said too is that instead of whipping ourselves for this, because like I said, stuff's going to happen. It's that evolution, it's that change, and things that bothered me when I was 30 don't bother me anymore.
Hmm.
I think, you know, and I do think our souls mature. I do think, y- all of us, I think, have seen these old souls that show up. It's like, where'd you get all that from? But part of that process of this life that we're living is we're not alone. We're not in this alone. We're not in it by ourselves. We're here for a reason. We're here to do something that helps mankind or helps the world or only helps one person. And
Hmm.
I think that's another thing that we get ourselves caught up in, is that we have to make these huge, big, sweeping, magical, wonderful, life-changing, world-changing things. No, you don't. You got to help the guy across the street whose wife just died.
Hmm.
That's it. That is it. That's it. One thing. And a bunch of one things add up. And
Yeah.
I say that because the guy across the street, wife's just died, and I met him at and he drove his car out to the mailbox because he's 90 something years old. And my moment was helping him. I said, can I carry your mail in? How about I come when I get my mail, I'll bring your mail to you so you don't have to drive your car out to the mailbox.
Hmm.
And I changed his life by that.
Hmm.
So he knows when I get my mail, I'm going to get his mail. People go, well, that's no big deal. To him, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Very big deal.
To him, it's a really big
So
deal.
tell me, can you share a memorable or challenging moment from your career?
Nursing career?
Yeah.
Sure. I had a career. I've been an OR, ER leader, manager, all the things. And then I took a job based out of Washington, D.C., where I was a consultant and trainer and leader for, I was in over 400 hospitals, and I was um, uh, leader, speaker, teacher, all those things. And I helped them with process improvement and all those things. Well, I got married, met my husband at gate 18 of Washington Reagan Airport. That's a whole nother story. Moved to a small town, small, 120 beds, and they made a position for me as the director of the ER and the OR. I thought, in my sleep, I can do this. I've been doing it for 400 other hospitals. I can do it here. Well, I'd been there 2 weeks and we flunked the Joint Commission, temporarily denial of accreditation. And 80% of the citations were in the ER and the OR. So here I was, brand new director, didn't know anybody, and I need to have this team come together to make these changes. And that was a really learning experience for me because all of us are leaders in some way, shape, or form in our profession.
Mhm.
And leader isn't what's on your name tag. Leader is can you help people get stuff done? Can you move things along? Can you do this? And I had absolutely zero credibility with that staff. And I had to move us to the place where we were, and because we were in survey hell. Trust me, they were there every month looking for something, looking for something, looking for something, looking for something. And I had to draw like, how do I make this happen and engage them and do that? But it was really situational leadership that I had to, guys, we got to do this. I'll tell you the reason why when we're all done, but here's what we got to do. And
Mhm.
most people don't like that type of leadership. When you're at the bedside, guys, we got to do this, this, and this, and they're going, well, what do we got to do that for? Hold on, we're going to get back to that. But in this moment, I need you to do this. This is way. And I ran the OR board for a lot of years, and I would have crises happening there. And I'd go here, go there, go there. I'll get back to you when the crisis has ended. And I did. That's the piece that I want to bring forward. That no matter what's going on, if you have to exhibit that kind of transactional leadership in the moment, when you're caring for patients crashing, you call for the code cart, you do all that sort of stuff. That's transactional. But when it's all over, you need to kind of like regroup the team, regroup the people, you know. End of the story, and Jackie's heard this story before, but at the end of the day, the CEO of that organization was incredibly toxic, and he made it very difficult for us to make organizational changes. And I had done my doctoral dissertation on bullying in nursing, bullying in the OR, and I go, oh, this guy's it. This is it.
Mhm.
14 months after I'd been there, I had gained 30 pounds, had 7 ulcers, and I knew this guy was driving me out of my ever loving mind. And as an organization, we couldn't deliver good care. So I had made a decision. I had documented for 14 months all the stuff, all the emails, all the things. And I had that dark night of the soul when I'm like, okay, JoNeil, it's you. You got to say something. And I had a dark night of the soul, called the corporate vice president of HR of this healthcare system and said, I need to meet with you. Talked to him on Monday, went on Tuesday. Now, mind you, I'd cleaned out my office, cleaned out my desk, didn't know what was going to happen. Because when you bring something forward at that level, they could have
Mhm.
just as easily have said, nah, no, it's the CEO. We're going to stick with him.
Mhm.
To their credit, they listened to me, interview it behind the scenes, interviewed 40 other leaders, and 10 days after I went to see the vice president of HR, that CEO was walked out of the building for creating a toxic work environment. So when people say there's nothing I can do about this, there's always something you can do.
Mhm.
So,
Super powerful, and I love how that story comes around, and And you see the light because things can change, and the little steps, just like you were talking about with your neighbor across the street, the one act of kindness and then continuing that over and over again can have the ripple effect all the way up to even, making change at the CEO level. It's just the action steps we choose to take and how we choose to show up in our everyday lives.
Mhm.
So tell me, JoNeil, what are some current projects or initiatives that you are working on?
Well, I am currently writing an ebook or a book on a tool that I created called the meanness matrix. And when I got done studying bullying and nursing, I learned what I already knew. It's there. And when I went to nursing school in the late 1970s, we're talking a long time ago, we talked about eating our young. And I got done with my doctoral dissertation. I was like, okay, what do I do with this? I found out that bullying affects patients negatively, all that. And sometimes you get that sort of download. I got this. My husband and I, this is a weird story. We're driving his little Corvette in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in the woods, all this, the tops open, sun shining, and all of a sudden it came to me. And so I created a tool called the meanness matrix. And what it is, it's a 3x3 square where you figure out, okay, I've had this interaction with, and some days you can do it quick, and sometimes you have to go back and think about it. But not all bullies are alike. We
Mhm,
tend to use the word bully for every person, place, thing, but there are sometimes where it's just rudeness.
mhm,
And the difference between rudeness and bullying is rudeness isn't intentional. Rudeness is somebody saying something stupid or not behaving kindly or smashing your potato chips in the grocery store, kind of a thing. Pulling them. Those are rude people. They didn't get up in the morning and say, I am gonna piss off JoNeil. No, I just happened to walk in their path and it was rude. So there's rude people, there are bullies, and bullies intentionally want to harm you. It's not random. It's you. So, and again, there's a spectrum of this. And then the end of that spectrum is the narcissist. And the narcissist is somebody who doesn't care about anybody but themselves. Now, they may come across like they do, but they're only doing it for their own purposes. And
mhm,
then as we look at the vertical axis, we have the horizontal, when we look at the vertical axis, there are some people in the world that don't matter to you. Now, I always say they matter to Jesus, they just don't matter to me. They're the people that come in and out of your life. They're incidental kind of people. But as you move up that axis, um, there are people that matter a little bit, people that have, you see tangentially, it could be your kid's school teacher, or it could be somebody who comes in and out, a distant cousin and all of that. But at the top of that axis are the people that really matter in your life, your spouses, your dearest friends, your kid, whatever that looks like, your siblings. And so using the meanness matrix, you go, okay, where do I put this person? Are they intentional? Are they rude? And then how much energy do I need to devote to that? And then what you do is you go, okay, there's my strategy. And so the meanness matrix actually helps you find a strategy specific for that intervention. So that's my current project, is working on that book, and it should be done in the next couple of weeks.
that is incredible. So amazing. I'm so excited for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And tell me about this program, um, Nurses Awaken.
Ah, yes. um, Jackie and I are both graduates of a program called Avalon Empowerment, which was so important for me, gave me a whole new way of looking at the world. And there's a program that we both had experienced called Awaken Your True Self. And what it does is, aside from being a nurse, you're a human being. And what are those things that have come in or come out? Remember touching those buttons and all of that have taken away some of your joy, taken away some of your peace. And it's what we're offering is a 6-week program where we're going to walk through and offer some exercises, offer some ways of looking at it. And I always talk about, I've mentioned this before, that there's one exercise called the amphitheater.
Mhm,
That way, and that happens to be one of my favorites, because you take a particular issue. And for me, when I very first did this, it was about my weight. And what were the people in that amphitheater? I'm standing there looking out at them, that impacted me. And how would I have a conversation with them now versus how I would have that conversation with them back the old JoNeil kind of a thing. And there's ways of grounding our thoughts. And so three of us, three nurses, really believe that whether you're at the bedside or not the bedside, there's something about that nurse heart, that nurse soul that we want to attend to. And we want to offer this program. I'm sure the link will be in the show notes here, but we're going to be offering it soon. And if you need more information, and Jackie, if you want to add a bit more about it, that's sort of the way I look at it.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking about energy and how we want to show up in our lives. So, the benefits of this program are things like increasing your self awareness, because when we are aware of ourselves, we're aware of the triggers, we're aware of our biases, then we are able to show up in a different way and respond differently. A lot of times we are activated, our nervous system is activated, we are in that fight or flight, which causes us to be reactive, right?
Mhm.
When we're
Right,
reactive, we don't have control
right,
over how we behave. But when we
right,
gain awareness, then we do have the ability to pause, think for a moment, and actually respond to situations. And
correct.
that is just one little teeny weeny tip of the iceberg of what this program offers. Like, it's offering also enhanced emotional regulation. We're giving you tools so that you can be managing your emotions when you are in those tough situations. Overall, it will begin to reduce your stress, because
Mhm.
the more you learn about yourself and understand how you operate in this world, the better equipped you are to communicate your needs, have your needs met, which allows you to serve others with an overflowing cup of love
Yeah,
rather than trying to draw blood from a stone, which how many nurses out there do that
yeah,
and
yeah.
have done that and keep doing it?
Mhm.
It's blows my mind because I used to be there, and talking to nurses now, I really want to like bring this message to them to be able to give from love and be overflowing with love.
Sure. Yep.
The program is going to help improve your relationships, and it's going to help you have increased resilience. It will boost your productivity by actually slowing down and taking care of yourself. Enhanced intuition, like it's
Mm.
just that feeling of connection to a higher power and receiving those downloads, all of that great stuff. You'll start to make healthier choices for
Mhm.
yourself because you're going to gain the awareness to what's happening and what's going on in your world,
Mhm.
and just so much more. This program is where I actually started my coaching journey, and I would never I don't even know how to describe how amazing it is. Aside from to say that, I mentioned how I grew up with childhood trauma and parents struggling with mental health illness. And, oftentimes these things just get passed down generation to generation until somebody
Mhm.
decides enough. Well, I
Yeah.
was that person who decided enough. No more.
Mhm.
We are breaking this cycle. And because I have been doing that for the last, well, most of my life, but in the coaching, I got into about 10 years ago. And that's when
Mhm.
things really started to transform. Now
Mhm.
my kids are young adults and they are living the life, like the life
Mhm.
of my dreams.
Yeah.
They are living their life at 24 and 25 that wasn't even possible for me at their age.
Mhm.
Like not even remotely in
Yeah.
my model of world, or I wouldn't even been able to conceive of how they are living.
Mhm.
And they are living it. So that's what I mean by saying they're living the life of my dreams, and they are so happy in their lives, which of course makes mom happy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you are looking for improvement in any area of your life, your spiritual growth and your health, your well-being, boost productivity, you want to increase your resilience, have better relationships, reduce
Mhm.
stress, then this program is definitely for you. And I hope to see you there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, JoNeil. It's been
Welcome.
lovely chatting with you. And I can't wait to facilitate this program with you because it is going to be absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.